Hi and welcome to this Data Protector demo. In this particular episode, we want to show you how to set up and use SAP HANA integration. So first of all, we want to check if SAP HANA integrations are installed within the Data Protector ecosystem. And you can do that by looking at clients and whatever filter for host names for whatever system you need. Let's say our system host name holds something with HANA in its name. Then it will show you the system that is currently installed. So this is one of our HANA systems in the demo. We were going to set up a second system and going to show some backup and recovery activity on the two. So this would be the first thing you would ever check. And if you look at details, like in properties, you see installed components. And in those installed components list, you should see the SAP HANA integration agent and the appropriate version showing up. So that's the first step in our configuration. The next one is to set up backup jobs. So you move over to the engineering view and look at the SAP HANA overview. So like I said, we already have a SAP HANA system sitting here. So that's HANA 1. And we're going to be setting up a second system alongside to it. So what you do is you right-click on the HANA folder, and a pop-up will actually ask you to pick one of those templates if you want to do that. So we're starting with the blank template, so I can show you all the individual steps. Other templates can be used to make your life easier to already preset a number of variables that you need during backup. So first of all, we need to give it the SAP HANA name the SAP HANA system we want to install to, and it's listing all the systems that have the SAP HANA agent installed. So even if they're not configured yet. So that's something you do in the first place. You may want to pick data or log areas, or just like the instance name from here, for example. And you have to provide the typical login names and the group, which is a good reminder to make sure that those usernames are already set up in your user management within Data Protector. So HXE ADM is the system that you're picking from here. Next up is Data Protector more or less like getting in contact with my HANA 2 server now and evaluating what kind of databases are installed. So let's say we want to make a backup of all the databases. So because we were just setting up the first time, we want to get all the data in our first runs. That can be fine-tuned at a later point in time, but let's just assume all the data needs to be backed up. Now, you have all the backup devices available that are hosted within Data Protector. So they do not need to be directly connected to HANA, even though that is a good recommendation, because you can actually use connectivity like Fiber Channel to stream directly from HANA into a backup device, whatever kind of device type that is or location that is. Or you can, of course, send your data to any other target, even if it is in the cloud, like over here, or physical devices hosted in a foreign location. So that's something you can do from here. So I'm using whatever an application pool that I have set up from here. And I'm also telling it to use a number of streams on the right-hand side. And if the SAP HANA setup is large enough, it will actually produce multiple streams automatically. And Data Protector can run multiple or parallel backup streams from that single system. Now we're moving on from here, and you can give it certain additional options along the way. So we're not going into that completely. Like I said, there is the possibility to make sure that we run parallelism and certain naming conventions here. And you also want to give it a retention time, which I have defaulted to 4 weeks at this point in time, but it can be much longer. It can be decades at the end of the day. So you may want to take that away as well. Now you can use the old-fashioned scheduler, but of course we have something a little bit more sophisticated on board, but I'm jumping over that for the moment. We want to save it under a certain given name, so I make that compatible to the system backup that I already have. So giving it some sound numbers and names here, and we want to save that. Now, you see that it takes a couple of seconds because it will now automatically create catalog and log file backups along the way. So we have basically a main data set or a main backup configuration here, And alongside with that, it has created automatically for catalog and log file backups, because they are done at certain different times. And depending on how your setup looks like, these backups will be started either being scheduled from the data protector side, and that's mainly for the full backups that you do regularly. The log backups are actually kicked off by SAP HANA itself. So it has a log file backup integration here. And whenever SAP HANA is asking for log file backup due to certain configuration parameters, it has a partner within Data Protector to pick up that log file backup and take over. Now, let's just run one of those backups to see what's actually happening. So when I start a certain backup, obviously I have a number of options, so I can run full, incremental, and differential. Incremental and differential will show up in a dedicated view on the SAP HANA site, but let's run full backups for now. And it will now start talking to the HANA system and preparing the database for upcoming backups. Now, there are a couple of details now spooling off from this procedure. Okay, so at the end of the process, you see a kind of a summary of session information. So backup was done successfully. And in those backup statistics, you see all the individual activities that happen. So there have been a number of agents running during the whole operation, and you get a grand total of the megabytes being or gigabytes being protected. Up here in Data Protector, you see the number of streams that have been extracted from SAP HANA, where you see kind of the main database stream over here, and everybody else in here is log file backup and catalog backup. So everything has been protected. At this point in time, only using one of those stream devices. Like said, if you have a larger SAP HANA setup, bigger than 128 gigabytes of memory, then it will automatically use multiple streams over here. So this is basically the backup side of it. On restore, obviously, you have a number of options to kind of recover a database. So this is your HANA 1 server that we just backed up. And with this overview, you see the individual databases which it actually hosted. So let's say we want to restore that particular tenant database. And you can just go from here, like with standard options, press the restore button, which will actually restore the tenant database to the most recent point in time to the same system using the same system variables and so on. So this would be the very easy way to get a database restored. Just press that button. The other one is maybe a little bit more sophisticated, because sometimes you need to bring your database to a different point in time, maybe even bring it back to a different system. So if you have multiple HANA systems installed, you can redirect your restore to a different system, and it offers you to change the instance name, the database name, log in with different usernames and groups if needed, and also take care of databases being online or offline. The most interesting points here are actually the recovery point in time that you want to choose. So the default is recover to most recent state, which is maybe the restore procedure for 9 out of 10 restores. But on the other side, you can also tell it to recover to a certain point in time, and that's basically where you pick from a calendar here. And you give it a time or a date together with the configuration. So that will actually move your database back into exactly what you set up here, or you can even pick sessions or different log positions. So there are a number of options available here. You can also pick different devices. Like if you find that a different device can serve better for this particular recovery scenario, then you just go and pick kind of an auxiliary device and even different pieces of media if available for this particular activity. So this is basically what a Data Protector administrator can do from the general Data Protector console. But we also design the integration in a way that it is fully compatible with everything you do from SAP Cockpit or Studio. So in this particular example, I'm using Studio. And like you see here, in the backup configuration settings of that system DB, you see back-in settings being automatically filled in. So that's automatically done when you set up the backup job from the DP side, so you don't have to do any manual configuration on SAP. It automatically redirects all your backups to backend, which is kind of the default. Other parameters are optional, like the backup interval and a number of other things, so you can set that from here. The good news about the integration is that it's fully compatible with everything that the SAP system does. So an SAP administrator can easily follow up on what has been going on the Data Protector side. Like you see here, the full backup that we just taken a couple of minutes ago is already showing up here. So that's obviously a full backup at this very moment. You can obviously also show all the log file backups which have been taken in the meantime. So you see that there were many more log file backups already going on today. So that's something you may want to take away as well. And you can also show anything that is like incremental or differential backup, showing here as delta backups. So delta backups basically being the headline for anything that is non-full, like incremental and differential. So this is also showing up here. An administrator can now go from here and recover the system also from the SAP HANA point of view. So if you go to backup and recovery and you want to recover a tenant database, then you see everything that Data Protector took away, and this is also linked with the backup catalog. So again, you may want to restore that tenant DB, and on the next page, it also offers you whatever the most recent time or a certain point in time that you can pick from here. And obviously, you have a number of advanced options, like also going for log positions and volume IDs. So next, you even have the ability to run system copies. So you may want to enter the source system over here and then make sure that recovery moves over to a different system. So for quality assurance or testing purposes, or just for general SAP application development purposes. So this concludes today's demo on SAP HANA. Thank you so much for dropping by and spending the time with us, and have a great day.